You know, I was wondering, right, when this war, this 8-year-old war that's been brewing now for almost a decade, would finally begin. Because there's a lots to go over, right? I don't know how many of you out there in the real comic book industry, actual real comic book creators with careers on the line and dreams and ambitions have been actually paying attention to the antics and the sheer vile hate that is Comcisgate and Ethan Van Sciver's very own brand, and the reasons why they don't like my sensei, Mr. Ben Dunn, and the reasons why they're not big fans of Antarctic Press, and the reasons why they won't do Kickstarter, yada, 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 is all really tied up to one single incident that not only should we go over, but go over in detail, right? Now, granted, I was not present, when Ben Dunn and Joe Ming Dunn had taken that infamous call 8 years ago from a one Mark Wade. I'm sure that name rings a lot of bells with a lot of people. However, I have spoken to both gentlemen. I do know what happened, at least as far as their accounting of it goes. Not only that, there's so much more to sort of go over and explain. And the best way to do this, folks, by the way, sub up and subscribe to the channel. Go buy my books on eBay. There's my JDA shill. Of course, there will also be an ad following this for the eBay store, and we'll talk a little bit about what we got going on towards the end. And I know you guys are here for the good shit, because Ethan's got the monies. Well, let's go ahead and check this out. What we're going to do here is we're actually going to do an old-fashioned EFAP of the sensei. Now, this is the sensei's latest video. He wants to know, what is Comcisgate endgame? Well, I can answer that for you, sensei. There is none. They're just there to be a problem child, period, end of story. But let's go over it. Let's see what the sensei says. I will pause it. I will correct him. I will ad-lib when needed. I will give any details that the sensei might be missing. And I'm doing this for a few reasons. One, because we need content on this channel, and this is a good talking point. This is stuff worth covering. Two, this is going to amplify the sensei's voice a little bit. Three, I know Ethan, he don't like it, so it's going to happen even more. And four, it's important for the comic book world to know exactly what is happening in the shadows and who some of these people might be that you may have to deal with in the future. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
This is Ben Dunn, your AP Sensei, creator of such comics as Ninja High School, Warrior Nun, and Marvel Mangaverse.
Pause. Right there. That's a hell of a lineage. Ninja High School, going on its 200th issue, which yours truly has a 10-page story in. Mammoth. No one's doing up to 200 issues anymore of anything, except for Ben Dunn, Todd McFarlane, maybe Eric Larson. Hey, bud, don't bring up my name, bud. And then there's the Warrior Netflixing. So I want to start with that. So there's this big misconception. There's this big thing that we're like, well, how come Ben Dunn, he ain't getting no money? He ain't getting no monies from Warrior Nuns, because he doesn't own it. Let me get big and personal here. Ben Dunn hasn't owned Warrior Nun for several years. Before there was a TV show, Warrior Nun was sold to Avatar Press. Ben Dunn has sold the property, thus giving up his rights. So when the Warrior Nun TV show came out, Ben Dunn had nothing to do with it. That's why Ben Dunn never got any money from it, because Ben Dunn doesn't own it. Avatar Press owns it. Now, Ben Dunn will always and forever be listed as Warrior Nun's creator, as he is on the show. And they brought him out one night and they showed him some stuff. But outside of that, Ben Dunn gets absolutely nothing from that show. But that doesn't change the fact that Ben Dunn's creation is a fucking Netflix TV series. Something that Comcisgate will never ever see. let's go ahead and continue on.
Established Antarctic Press, a comic book publishing company, in 1985, celebrating its 40th anniversary. Over the weekend, I did a couple of videos, giving you my opinion on the whole Rippaverse and Comcisgate rivalry that seems to be going on, and I stirred quite a bit of hornet's nest by giving my opinion on the situation. Now,
Pause. Comcisgate does not like it when someone gives an opinion, especially with an opinion that comes from someone that has an actual history in comics, someone that actually knows what they're talking about in comics, someone that's been doing this now for 40 years. No, Comcisgate hates that shit because secretly what Comcisgate wanted was to work with Ben Dunn. They did. I have clips of EVS talking with John Malin. Well, we could always go the publishing route. I hear AP is picking up, certain creators. Maybe we can try that. And they'll deny they ever said that. But I got the monies. I got it on tape. I got it in 4 fucking K. We should play it. But yeah. But the thing is that they know they would never be accepted. It's why they don't go to Kickstarter. Because Kickstarter won't allow Comcisgate projects to go up on their page, as it should be. So they're going to say it's a personal choice. No, if they bloody well could be with AP or bloody well be with Kickstarter, and they thought it would cause them no problems, then they would be doing it. That is just a fact.
I don't, don't get me wrong. I don't, dislike either one of them.
So that's the sensei's opinion. I do dislike one of them. I dislike Comcisgate with a passion, and they know it.
I wish nothing but huge success for both of them, because I feel like any success in the comics industry is a success for comics.
This is where I have to correct the sensei. No, not any success is success for comics. If Comcisgate somehow becomes a thing, it will ruin comics, right? This is the reason why I stand so valiantly against them, is because they are the worst single influence in comic book history. And it simply just can't be allowed, sensei. This is why, Antarctic needs to continue to gatekeep them. This is why we need to continue to put pressure on them. I mean, hell, if we didn't fought back against the Nazis in World War II, they would have just taken more ground. This is the reason why we put up walls, so we don't allow them to take more ground.
What I was trying to convey was the fundamental differences between the two and how I think one will ultimately do better than the other.
Well, one is already doing better than the other if we're talking about monetary gain. When your first release for item number 1 does over $3 million, yeah, that puts Comcisgate to shame. Because Ethan has an ego, right? And the ego is, I gotta be the guy that's making the most money in comics because I want to be the top dog and I want to rub my financial success in everyone's faces. That's why.
Long-term success, only history can be the judge of that. But based on the current events that are now permeating currently going on, I just gave what I thought was my assessment based on past, situations that I've encountered before the last 40 years we've been in business. Now, I'm not saying that this situation is not unique, because we are in an era of fundamentally different situations, that are different, that are way different than those in the past.
That was a weird way of saying that times have changed and that the world has become more polarized and more political. Let's continue on.
We didn't have social media, in the 1980s or we did sort of in the mid to late 90s, and it really started to come in prominence in the 2000s. But back then, it was much harder to spread whatever opinions you had. Now, anybody can just hop on board, express what they have to say, and it can go viral or whatever. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, only history can be a judge of that. However, in this particular situation, I felt I had to give my opinion because I feel that there is a way for, things to turn around for Comcisgate.
No, there's not, and we don't want it to, right? If Comcisgate is in trouble, if they're hanging on life support, then I want to be the first guy to cut the cord. So unlike the Sensei's got a bigger heart than I do. I'm Johnny Lawrence, okay? I'm Larry Lawrence, and Larry Lawrence says sweep the fucking leg and kick them while they're down. Because we got to get Comcisgate just out of it. Like, we got to get that movement dead and buried with the gravestone that says, here used to lie, Comcisgate. That's how I feel about that, Sensei. You're a lot kinder gentleman, a lot kinder soul than your student, Larry Lawrence.
If they choose to want to do that path. First of all, I don't know what the situation is between Eric July and Ethan Van Sciver. I don't know.
I do. It's the situation is about ego, especially Ethan's ego, because when Eric July first started doing his comic book, Ethan actually did a cover for it. He might have done two. I know a couple of those other Comcisgate cats took part in Eric's project. But the thing is they wanted Eric to be part of Comcisgate. They wanted Eric to announce that he was part of that movement, and Eric wouldn't do it. He said, nah, man, the Ripperverse, man, it's its own thing, man. We're moving differently. And Comcisgate didn't like that. And this started a little war between EVS and Eric July. EVS claims that he's gotten so-called night letters from Eric July, which are basically just emails or direct messages saying, hey, what the fuck is going on? Why are you talking trash about me? Why are you talking trash about my business? If you don't stop, this could get ugly. And it did get ugly. More so on Ethan's part than Eric. I mean, Eric's just a black dude trying to make a comic book and has made one very successfully. And because Ethan can't attach Comcisgate to that and take credit for Eric's success, and that Eric is doing far better than Ethan, Ethan is full on fucking Spurg mode, man. That's what's going on in a nutshell. It's competition. It's cutthroat competition. It's WCW versus WWE. It's Coke versus Pepsi. It's Ripperverse versus Comcisgate.
What their personal situation is. My understanding is that at first, Ethan was a big supporter of Eric July's venture into doing comics, and somehow he felt betrayed by something that Eric did. I don't know all the details, nor do I want to. All I know is what I'm seeing now.
Well, you do want to know the details, and I gave a really quick summary of it. And I'm sure there's a little bit more to that, but that's the details. And the reason why you want to know the details is because if you're going to talk about something, Sensei, then you should learn the facts, right? That should mean not me being hard on the Sensei. It's just the God honest truth that if you're going to open mouth, make sure you have some stuff that you can back it up with. That's all.
And I'm seeing it from outside as an observer. And I'm just trying to give people my opinion as to how I feel things can improve for both of them. There's plenty of opportunity for both sides to be successful.
No, there really isn't. There's opportunities for Eric's side to be successful because he's not out there trashing the entire mainstream industry. He's not taking a big shit on names like Heather Antos or Mark Brooks or Dan Slott or Megs Visaggio or whoever else, like Comcisgate has been doing for 8 years. Okay, Comcisgate doesn't respect the industry. Comcisgate has no place in the industry.
I mean, I'm not saying that I myself am successful in the terms of monetary return. I mean, Eric July made $3 million on his first campaign, and that's nothing to scoff at. And Ethan Van Sciver made over $1 million on his first campaign.
That was pre-COVID though, and Eric during COVID. Here's the thing: everyone did really well during COVID. I mean, at the tail end of COVID, when people still had extra money, NYOBI Outbreak #1 was our best campaign ever with almost $31,000. Now we've never hit that since. So it's all ratioed, right? They did well in the millions because they have hundreds of thousands of followers that had extra money during that time. Back also when crowdfunding was hot and people were just sort of learning about it and it was new and exciting, and they didn't realize it was going to be 5-year wait from books from EVS. And now a lot of people, because of that, got taken for anywhere from 20 to thousands of dollars and still haven't yet to receive a product. And even when they do, 5 years is fucking a ludicrous amount of time to wait. No one waits 5 years, pays advance, and then waits 5 years for something. That's fucking dumb.
That is, highly respectable, very envious. And it's one of those things that, I couldn't, I'm not going to say never achieve, but it would be difficult for me to achieve,
If anyone's going to achieve it, Sensei, it's you. You have, and this is the thing, and I keep telling the Sensei this, that I don't think the Sensei does enough with his properties. And I know he's trying different ventures and stuff, right? But I mean, if the Sensei was to listen to all LP would say, we got to take Ninja High School and bring it to the younger readers who love manga, because that will fit right up their alley. You could reboot an entire franchise, and I would go back to the basics, because when people think of Ninja High School, they don't think of Generation 2 or Generation 3. They think of G1. I think of G1 because the G1 characters are the best-selling characters of that franchise. After Ninja High School 200 or 201 or whatever, like, how are you going to wrap up the entire story? I would wrap it up, and then I would come back out with a brand new Ninja High School #1, completely done manga style, maybe even black and white in a more digestible format, and put those out and label it as an American manga. Label it and go on the manga YouTube shows and talk about manga and tag manga and get all the manga fans watching you, Sensei, as one of the godfathers of American manga. That's what I would do. Now we're way off topic, but let's roll on. Let's roll on.
Some people say, "Oh, it's because they had such great influence." Now, that probably is true. They did build their audience. They worked hard at that. I don't fault them for that at all.
If you're talking about Van Sciver and crew, no, they didn't really work for their audience at all. I mean, if Ethan Van Sciver had never worked for Marvel or DC and just came out of the blue, here's my Cyberfrog book, it wouldn't even raise $50,000. The only reason why he gets any money at all is because he has a name from working in the industry. The industry made Ethan. Period.
They had something to say, people wanted to consume it, and they translated that into a monetary gain. And that's nothing wrong. That's our capitalist system. That's the way it works. And I applaud them for that. I applaud them for their success. I am not one to say, I did so much, I'm doing so much better. I'm not jealous of it. I'm not envious of it. I love the fact that they're both highly successful. What I loathe is all the drama that's being created by both sides.
One side. Eric, I don't see Eric July going out and saying, Ethan Van Sciver is he's fucking up my business. He's a threat to everything that the Rippaverse stands for. I don't see that. But I do see Ethan going, Rippaverse is a threat to everything I stand for. Like, I heard those exact words come out of his mouth just the other day, right? So this is really a one-sided war. If Ethan and crew just fucked off and left Eric alone, there'd be no problems, because Eric is not poking the bear. See, whoever draws first blood, that's the problem. And it's not only has Ethan drew first blood, he keeps stabbing him with the knife repeatedly. And he's been doing it for 3 fucking years, dude. Cashing in night after night, $1,000 to $2,000 worth of super chats. And then he milks his audience for every penny of their work by saying, I'll review Eric's book and make fun of it if you pay me to do it. And they do. Like dumb fucking simps, they roll in the cash, they throw away their hard-earned money so they can watch a white man make fun of a black man for making comics. It's sickening. And he's built his entire franchise off that for the last 3 years. And he knows if he stops bagging on Eric July, if he stops trolling Eric July, all his fucking numbers, not only in super chats and in live viewer count, but his backer numbers are going to go down.
You know, the one thing about say the comic geek's greatest weakness is it has no direction.
Yeah. Well, it has no direction because it's not a company. See, this is where I have to correct the sensei on a few things. Comcisgate, and he's going to talk about this, but I'll just say it now. It's not a company. It's not like, it has a building, it has a warehouse, it has a staff, there's an editor, there's a secretary, there's this, there's that. It doesn't exist. All Comcisgate is, and they never claimed it to be anything different, by the way, Sensei. So I really need you to listen to this and understand this. They're not a publisher like Ripperverse or like Antarctic Press. All Comcisgate is, and they'll tell you this themselves, is just a name for a group of people who want to network together. Like a gang in comics.
It has no purpose other than just being a brand.
And it's not even that, because in order for it to be a brand, there has to be something universal about it, along with everyone that's part of that brand. There has to be some sort of brand recognition, some sort of mission statement, some sort of way to identify said brand when you see it. And there really is no way to do that with Comcisgate, other than who's got the loudest mouth on the internet.
And if you really think about it, if Ethan Van Sciver with Cyberfrog were to just do Cyberfrog, without the Comcisgate label.
Well, he does. I mean, in a technical sense, I don't think I've ever seen a label for Comcisgate officially on a Cyberfrog book. What he puts on the book is what's called All Caps Comics, which is publishing label for himself, right? Just like I have NYOBI Comics for myself. I don't publish anyone else's work, right? It's the same thing with All Caps Comics. He has that, if Comcisgate ever falls, right? The reason why Ethan has All Caps Comics on his book is if Comcisgate ever falls, that he has that to go back on. Well, I'm not Comcisgate, I'm All Caps Comics. Ha 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 ha.
How would that change his sales? Would that increase them or decrease them?
If books were out there with the CG label on it, like you got approved by Ethan, your book is a quote unquote official Comcisgate book, which is what he should be doing, then everyone in that movement would get bigger sales because it would appeal to those who are interested in that movement. Now you have something official. Now you're talking about branding, right? If like Liam Gray comes out with Dino King #2, mate, and there's the Comcisgate label on it, mate, and it even has a little crown in the corner indicating that this book was made by a Comcisgate king. Oh yeah, mate, it probably would increase sales, at least in the temporary short term.
Or would they remain the same? We don't know. Has the Comcisgate label become toxic? I would probably say yes.
It's always been toxic. That's why it exists, right? From the time that these gentlemen got canceled, Ethan Van Sciver, Shane Davis, John Malin, Graham Nolan, Aaron Lopresti, you name it, the list goes on. It's always been toxic because they were canceled and removed and blacklisted for toxic reasons, because they were difficult to get along with, because they didn't fit in with the company mold anymore, the company brand, the company lifestyle. They were essentially problems in the making, and they got released for it. And they took that really in bitter stride. And they've been toxic about it since day one. Day one.
It has become toxic. It's gotten to the point now where, despite some creators in Comcisgate, delivering their product on time, a lot of it has been negative. Creators not delivering their product on time, or extremely late, or not at all.
Or They mail it with stickers attached to the back, i.e. stealing solo from world-class bullshitters. They put them in sandwich bags like Flip from Phoenix Press. A lot of these people don't know what they're doing. They'll take in a bunch of money thinking that they've just made the dream, and then they don't know how to handle that money, and they overspend. And that's the reason why they can't get out their books. That's the reason why books are late. Meanwhile, guys like me, Max and Sam and others, do everything we can to make sure that our books are getting out. You know, right now, I'm surrounded by NYOBI books that are going out in the mail, you know. Spent the last couple of days getting everything ready to start, you know, just doing orders, getting everything out on time. No one's got to wait 5 years for our shit, man. No one. And that's an important part of this business, 100%.
And this is detrimental to that label, you know, to that brand. You know, and as long as there's behavior that negatively affects Comcisgate, you know, then it's going to get worse over.
Correct. You got a lot of bad apples that are running around saying there's Comcisgate, making Ethan look bad. But, you know, let's face it, Ethan does a good job of that all on his own. But if I was Ethan and I owned the trademark, which he does, every fucking single person who calls themselves Comcisgate would be vetted. Every single person. And I don't mean like the buyer, the backer. I mean creators. Every single person who is a comic book creator that says there's Comcisgate would be vetted to make sure they are not going to be a problem, to make sure they're not out there on live streams causing issues and picking fights, right? They would also be vetted for in regards of their work. Is it of a professional quality? If it is, then they can use the Comcisgate trademark and advertise themselves as such. If it's not, then go fuck off and jump off a bridge. That's how I would do it if I was old EVS. But, you know, EVS seems to think that, oh, it's for everyone. Well, it really isn't. Not anymore. And it's time that he wakes the fuck up. Let's move on.
Time. You know, this I am pretty sure of. You know, unless they can do a turnaround, which I highly doubt. I mean, nothing is impossible. But at its current trajectory, I don't believe it will survive for very long. You know, yeah, it'll go as long as EVS, who is he is the head man of the whole comics book label. But even I predict he will eventually abandon it.
Nope, he won't abandon it. And I'll tell you why. It's for a couple of reasons. One, he spent too much money acquiring the name to ever abandon it. Two, he knows that with a certain subsect of people that name is money. He has put that name on products, hats, t-shirts, things of that nature, okay? And three, if he ever decides to make Comcisgate an actual publishing label, then that would be somewhat huge on his end. So no, he's never going to give that up. Never going to give you up. Never going to I don't know the words. But you just been rickrolled. Let's go.
You know, I see a lot of creators not even using it anymore. They're not touting the fact, hey, I'm a Comcisgate creator, because the support is waning.
Oh, it's not even that. Yes, it is waning. The reason why they don't do it, or the reason why they have done it and backed away from it, is because they know that it's a black mark on their name, right? They want to be able to do the things that I've been privy to do now, which is go to conventions, attend events, do free comic book day, anything locally that's happening, you know. They want to be able to do that. And so the best way to sort of get rid of the shit stain that's been attached to your name is to clean yourself up and get rid of that brand, to say, hey, you know what? I'm not Comcisgate. Or say, hey, I was Comcisgate until I realized, you know, just how shitty and toxic that entire thing was. And now I'm here to stand out and speak against it, just like I'm doing. And you're doing in many ways, Sensei.
Now, and I don't understand the obsession with them both trying to outdo each other in terms of funding.
It's competition. They feel that if they can outfund the other guy, that they can drive a nail in that coffin, right? It was like when Eric Bischoff was warring with Vince McMahon during the Monday Night Wars, and the big thing was who had the highest ratings of the night, right? Was it WWE or WCW? And for 83 weeks straight, WCW was beating WWE in sheer numbers, in ratings. And the goal was to put WWE out of business. Nothing's changed here in regards to Comcisgate. They would love nothing more than to wipe Eric July and the Ripperverse out of comics completely, because they feel like that would open up more potential backers to their products.
You know, when Anarch Press started out, we didn't care what the other publishers were making. Okay, it didn't affect us one. I don't now. We would look at what made them successful and say, hey, maybe we can learn something from that. Maybe there's something in there that we can do that will help us, generate more revenue for our company. Because in the end, that's what it comes down to, is generating revenue for our company. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Our ability to pivot and change, that's one of our strong suits. We can see trends, we can see how things are going. The difference is that we don't put all our eggs in one basket. And this is what I'm trying to say, is that what exactly is Comcisgate trying to achieve? What is it? What's the end?
Well, the answer is infamy. That's what they're trying to achieve. They want to be so infamous. They want to be looked at as a networking group, as like the comic book outlaws, the bad boys of comics. The comics that your mama told you shouldn't read. That's what they want to be, right? The problem is that they just look like fools trying to be posers and pretenders. The last real outlaw in comic books is me. Let's just get that straight. I'm the last of the old school. All right. Many of them have told me that I'm the last sort of guy that, like, if I was back around in the 90s, like, I would have fit right in. So look, I'm the last of the old school, period, bar none, end of story. These other guys, they just want infamy. They just want people talking. They still feel that any publicity is good publicity. They don't understand how 2025 actually works. I do.
End game for Comcisgate. I don't know what it is. Is it, are they trying to, look, I notice that Comcisgate does not have a single label on any of their comics from any creator.
Correct. Because it's not a publisher. That's why. It's not like Ethan's like, oh yeah, so I got Comcisgate, and while I'm sitting here stuffing my face with pie and sugary drinks, I'm taking on books. So if you want to have me publish and fulfill your book, submit it to me and we'll put the Comcisgate label on it. Yeah, no, that doesn't happen for a few reasons. Ethan doesn't want that burdensome problem. If that Comcisgate creator doesn't fulfill, then it makes the entire label look bad. It's time consuming. It's like the same reason why Antarctic Press doesn't take on work unless if it's fully completed, because if something goes wrong halfway through the process, then it's really the company that sort of takes on all that shame and problem. That's why.
Is there a single Comcisgate, quote unquote, Comcisgate comic that has a Comcisgate logo? I don't see it. Granted, I don't get every single comics book comic. I did get Jawbreakers, and they didn't have Comcisgate on there. As far as I know.
Well, the reason why it never had a label, for a couple reasons, but the main reason why is that, again, it wasn't a company. It's not a publisher. It's a name of a loose-fitted gang of comic book creators who have no choice but to network together to stay alive in an industry that doesn't want them. That's all it is, Ben. That's all it's ever been. And it's not like they're trying to say it's something different. They understand that they're a gang.
No, Even Ethan Van Sciver, own comic book Cyberfrog, doesn't have a Comcisgate label on it. Now, I could be wrong. If I am, my apologies. But
And the second reason is Ethan didn't own the trademark when Jawbreakers came out, by the way. That trademark was under contention. Preston Polder tried to get that. A guy named Courteous tried to get that. Dark Gift Comics was involved in that in some shape, way, or form. And eventually it landed in the hands of Ethan after having to go to court with Preston over it and a few other matters. Eventually, Ethan won out and got the name for Commerce. And he can do whatever he wants with it, but it doesn't. But he's not a publisher. He only publishes himself, and maybe he did Snowman for one other dude. So that way, if someone in Comcisgate fucks up, then Ethan can claim plausible deniability. Oh, he's not with me. I never signed him. I can't stop who calls themselves Comcisgate. Great way to have plausible deniability.
But if you're so proud of the brand, why aren't you labeling your comics Comcisgate? Now,
that's a great fucking question. Because again, if I had owned it, if I was in his position, right? I'm hated. I'm outcast. I know I'm never going back to the mainstream. I know no one fucking wants me around except for a few right-wingers who are willing to pay ludicrous amounts of money just so they can hate on the opposite side without even reading the books. If I was in that position, yeah, Comcisgate would be a label. It would be on all the books. It would be a publishing house with only the best of the rejects. That's exactly how that would go. And that's how it should go.
Eric July, he is proud to slap his logo on every single comic he produces.
You're fucking right, he is. And he should be. He works with a great amount of talent. He's expanding. Not only does he do comics, but he's looking at film. He's looking at doing anime. He's looking at a variety of things. He's working with people that he's comfortable with, that he knows that can deliver. Where, again, Comcisgate is just like a fucking gang, that has no leadership, no rules. It's complete chaos. And that's why Sensei's right. It will ultimately fail in the end. But it is such a slow death. Can we just not fucking speed it up somehow?
Because he knows he's trying to associate his company with his comics. And he knows that his supporters, his buyers, are looking for that label. They're supporting that label. And Eric July, despite what you may think of him personally as a person, I don't know him. I met him once. Very nice guy, very genuine. I would, at least I thought so. He seemed very nice. And I come to the conclusion that he respects his fans and his readers, and that's his main concern.
You know what Ethan respects? Oh, because we got him on the line. Oh, yeah, I only respect people who give me super chat money or back me at the one particular moment, and if they stop giving me money in any way, they can all go fuck themselves. Straight from the horse's mouth.
Over everything else. I don't know how much animosity exists between both he and Ethan Van Sciver, but I would think that it would come to no good. This is what I will say. Stop wasting your time trying to tear each other down.
Eric's not doing that, but Ethan is, and Ethan will never stop because I told you why. But let's educate the class one more time. He makes anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 a night just on super chat money from YouTube alone. Forget about comics, right? Ethan thinks he's a YouTube star, that his job is to, bash on people and get paid for it. And as long as outrage drama does pay his bills, he's gonna keep doing it, man. And it doesn't matter who the target is. In fact, Sensei, you're the target now for him because you dare speak out, right? This man, this old man who's been around the industry forever, whose voice should carry a lot of weight. Here's the thing about Ben Dunn. Let me get up and close and personal for this. And Ethan, you gotta listen to me, son. Ben Dunn is the fucking Stan Lee of indie comic books. Not you, not Eric, not Brian Polito, not any other name you can throw in there. Ben Dunn is the Stan Lee of indie comic books and has been for 4 fucking decades and will continue to be.
And start spending more of your time building the comic industry up. And that's the difference, is that Eric July, he may not be a comics aficionado. He may not have an encyclopedic knowledge of comics, but he's a businessman. And this is what he's been trying to say, is that businessmen run businesses. Do you think for one moment that all the past publishers of comics, including Marvel and DC, cared about, comics themselves other than how much it costs them, how much profit they're making? They didn't care about the actual production of the comic, other than if a comic book did well, we need to do more of that, until we get to the point where people are sick of it, and then we need to find something else to do. The thing is that Eric July is taking the tact that he's putting out product that his readers want, and he's putting it out on a consistent basis. My only advice would be is to try to turn those 96-page trade graphic novels into floppies, and sell them, to Ollie's or to Bucky's or to other venues.
How about I raise the stakes on this? Let's go big again. It's a great plan. I mean, you can sell online directly, and that does very, very well. Direct to consumer, right? Very profitable. But most consumers don't even realize that sort of thing exists in the sense of comic books, right? And if I have to go to every publisher's website to order a book, I'm probably not going to do it. But I'm willing to give something a chance for $5 or $6 if I see it out in the store. If I saw Eric July's Isom #1 out in the store in comic book shop for a reasonable price, I would buy it. The reason why I don't buy a lot of crowdfunding books anymore is they're overly expensive. They take forever to get. And it's high shipping when you ship to Canada. So I just don't do it. I just don't do it anymore. Yes, I expect people to back mine, but I certainly don't do it because I too run a business. And I can't be throwing away money on books that take forever to arrive that aren't that good when you get them. However, I'm willing to take a chance. If I saw a floppy of Isom #1 for $5, published by Antarctic Press, I would buy it. And I think Ben should do what he can to maybe make that deal happen. That's what I would do if I was Ben Dunn. I would sign Eric July immediately to Antarctic Press. I would build a whole sub-label around it, the Ripperverse with Antarctic Press, some sort of sub-label, and get those books out just like they've been doing with Common America and Tim Lim. That's exactly what I would do if I was Ben Dunn. It's been done before, and it's been done again because it's a Ben Dunn deal.
And get them into the hands and price them, as cheaply as possible to get them into the hands of new readers. That's probably be my only advice to him is to why, not take advantage of that revenue stream if you can. And he certainly has that capability to do it should he want to do it. The thing about Comcisgate is that they don't have that capability, and nor do they want to do that. I'm sure in their minds they would love to see their comics on newsstands in the direct market. They say they don't, but why would they?
They say they don't in regards to Comcisgate because most of them realize that their work would never cut it. Right? Could you imagine Dark Gifts hunting Alice out on the shelf? It wouldn't even sell a copy because it looks horrible. And, far be it from me to call another creator's shit horrible. But in this case, it really is. It looks like a 7-year-old drew it, and it's 4 years late on top of that. So they know that these books would never fly on the shelves. They know they can never even get published. A publisher would look at that and go, this is such substandard work that we can't even, you insult us by submitting it to us. You know what I mean? Right? So that's why they don't do, because they know they can't cut the mustard, sensei. They can't.
Why would they snub another potential revenue stream? I mean, whatever personal reasons they have, I don't know what they are, but apparently they don't have that. They don't have the desire.
No, well, I mean, I'm sure some of them have the desire, but they don't have the quality of work. Maybe a couple of them do. But the problem is also, sensei, is that if the same thing would happen to another company to publish them and put them out on the shelf as it did with you, with Mark Waid, right? You would get that company, just like AP, would get a phone call from someone high up in the division in the comic books industry saying, why in the fuck are you guys publishing Cyberfrog? Why in the fuck are you publishing Shane Davis? What in God's green earth made you ever think that you can publish John Malin without getting some fucking feedback from that, bad feedback from that, right? These guys are assholes. These guys are a terror on the comic book community. These guys have driven people to insanity. They troll a black man for 3 years for super chat money because they don't have a soul and they forgot how their parents raised them. Yeah, no. They know that they're blacklisted. They know that most publishers would say no to them. They don't even try because they're that aware
to approach that. And that's fine. But that's another weakness that Comcisgate has, not the ability to expand and to adapt to new changing market.
No, there really is no ability for them to expand and adapt, especially like, in the thought of like going into comic book stores and stuff like that. Because my shop, I can tell you that my shop won't touch a Comcisgate book with a 10-foot pole. They don't like right-wing it comics. They fucking don't, right? Canada, very left-leaning place here, I kind of fall a little bit in the middle, but more these days to the left after the more vile vitriol I see constantly coming from the right. Power corrupts, absolutely, and the fact that they got a little bit of power meant that they thought that they can do anything they want, unimpeded and unchallenged. Well, I'm here to challenge them. I'm here to challenge them all. We need people like me, like the sensei, like others, coming out and speaking up against Comcisgate as a movement, not just against one man, but all of them. Anyone, it's like you ever watched the movie, Wyatt Earp, right? If I see a man wearing a red sash, either he drops that sash or I kill the man wearing it. Well, it's the same thing for me in Comcisgate. Either you drop the label or you are forever on that shit list. It's just how it is. And by me saying drop the label, I don't mean you quietly drop it. I mean you announce it to the world and you become an active participant in the war against Comcisgate to remove them. That's the call I'm making to people. That's the call I'm making to creators, to stand up for your industry friends, to stand up for the industry itself, and to remove the toxicity that has been over our heads as dark clouds for 8 years now. Let's go back to the sensei as he finishes off here.
Market conditions, and that's the biggest thing that weakness they have. If they really want to succeed, they need to have somebody in charge that can oversee a line of Comcisgate, products that they can all, fundamentally control in some fashion, so that and build trust with their customers and readers that their product will be of high quality, on time, and delivered in a manner that will keep new readers, keep old readers and make new ones, because that's really what it is. It's growth. It's about growth, and
their growth plan, their strategy, Ben, is not like marketing their books to new readers. Their growth strategy is picking on and bullying people like yourself for outraged clicks and baits, for the ha-has, to be as cruel as possible to people and have people buy their books because they're being such cool fucking bastards. That's their market strategy. That's been their market strategy from day one.
Press started with one comic, and over a period of 40 years, we slowly grew over a period of time. We didn't try to put out 10 or 15 titles all at once. We put one title, see how they did, and worked on that one title, and then started doing 2 titles and 3 and so on and so forth. And then we started using creator-owned product creations to pad out our line, so that we can continue to grow. And I know things are different now. I mean, the direct market has collapsed with Diamond, and we have new distributors popping up, and it's yet to be seen whether or not they can take over the role of Diamond. But anyway, regardless, if Comcisgate continues on its current path, I don't see how it can sustain itself. It just can't, in its current form. So don't take it as I'm attacking Comcisgate. Just take it as just.
I'm sorry, Ben, but they're not going to do that. The fact that you speak out and say Comcisgate isn't going to make it, or I predict it's going to fail, to them, that's an attack. To them, what they're going to say, Ben Dunn is telling the public not to believe in us. Well, that's going to hurt our business. So to them, that's an attack. If just by making these videos, criticizing them in any shape, way, or form due to their behavior, their online activities, so on and so forth, to them is an attack. Anything negative is an attack to them. You have to understand this. They don't look at this as you giving sage advice. They look at this as you teaming up with Eric July to attack them. If you haven't figured that out yet, just read your comments.
Friendly advice that I think that needs to be done. And for God's sakes, try not to keep attacking each other. I know it's good for clickbait, sure. I know it's trying to divide, people into various camps, like, the Civil War, are you a northern or a southerner, or.
Well, I mean, the current state of politics have already done that. It's just that larger problem has trickled its way down in the comic books. And so, yes, humans by nature are very tribal, right? We've been in tribes since the dawn of the caveman. And humans are always questing for one thing. And what is that? Power, right? People want to have power so they can have the easiest lives that they can imagine. It's no different in comic books. It's just such a microcosm that really goes unseen by the general public. But the more that we talk about it, the more that we point it out, the more we shine those flashlights on the cockroaches, the more they're going to run and scatter. And we just got to keep doing it.
Or you're a Democrat or Republican, we're all people. And, the thing is that everybody should be allowed to enjoy whatever they want to enjoy. And they shouldn't have to pick sides to enjoy it. And that's just my opinion. So anyway, I'm blabbered all long enough. So until next time, this has been Dunn signing off.
So as you can see there, some misconceptions, some difference of opinion. But one thing that remains totally clear is that Comcisgate itself is a toxic movement. It's not a brand. It's not a company. It's not a label. It is a gang of thugs who got exiled and have been forced to band together out of necessity to survive. And we don't want them to survive. I want to see Comcisgate dead and buried. And if it's dying, I want, again, to be the guy that cuts that cord. Let's see the tombstone, maybe once a year we'll pass by it, but that's it, man. The sensei's on the ball here. He's a man with 40 years worth of experience, worth listening to. He is, in my opinion, the Stan Lee of the independent comic book scene, not Ethan Van Sciver, not Eric July, okay, not Brian Polito. No one, has been around and has done as much in the indie comic book scene as Mr. Ben Dunn. It's been done before. It's been done again. And it's always going to be a Ben Dunn deal because that's just the way it is. Now, I think EVS, content farming Ben is pretty low and pretty sad. And, but that's, the story of his life though, isn't it? My suggestion is, if you're a backer of Ethan Van Sciver, you might want to ask for your refunds now, because the guy flat out stole your money. He owes books that are years and years late. He's not honoring refunds to people. He's not answering people back. And he's just drama content farming just to keep the lights on at his home, right? We're here for the long game. He's here for the short game. He wants the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time it takes to get it. I'm here looking for a legacy that in 50 years from now, NYOBI's still a household name. If you want to check out NYOBI, you can do that. You can do that by checking out our eBay store, NYOBI Comics at ebay.com. Check that all out. You can check us out on Gumroad to read digitally. And you can look forward to our next Kickstarter. The Art of NYOBI, Volume 1, coming towards the end of the month. It's going to be a beautiful 60-page art book just featuring some of the best images that we've collected for NYOBI over the course of a decade, plus some fan art. It's going to be a fun book to do, and we'll see you all there. Keep your eyes out for the next video coming out real soon.